Hi, and welcome to The Bright Balloon, a podcast where I'm sharing bright ideas for your balloon business. My name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm a balloon business owner like you, and I love the creative side of what I do, but I really love the business side, which seems to be the part where most people struggle. So I'm here to help. Each week, I'm bringing you an episode full of bite-sized tips you can use to make improvements in your business. I want you to make more money, eliminate stress, and learn along with me as we grow our creative businesses together. Welcome to The Bright Balloon, presented by 17 Hats. Hello and welcome to today's episode. It feels really good to be back. I know that we've already had a month in the new year, but a lot of those episodes were pre-recorded thanks to Tough Text. And I just want to take a quick second to thank Tough Text for hopping on as our first curated sponsor of the year. It's a really big deal to me. Especially given this episode that I'm recording today, where I'm going to look back at my first episodes ever, and having re-listened to those from 4 years ago, it's like an out-of-body experience seeing where the podcast has come and seeing a big manufacturer like Tough Text hop on and support the show. Like it just means everything to me. So I am so grateful to them. I thought the month was awesome. All the guests that they chose were so nice to chat with, and I just can't say enough about Tough Text as a company. They're so supportive of me. They're so supportive of us as an industry. I'm just so thankful to have their support. So January, those episodes felt really special. Now, back with real-time updates. I am recording this episode like 3 days before it is going to be released. So my new year is off to I don't want to say a busy start, but like a stressful start, because I am going into my biggest event of the year, which starts on March 1st, which means that I have been ordering close to 100,000 balloons. I have 15 people coming to help me. I am in the thick of all of that. I am doing the recipes. I'm getting everything organized. So it's a busy time, even though balloon-wise, it's not that busy of a time. I had a really slow January, which I loved. I intentionally took a lot of time off. February is pretty busy for me, but it's kind of that avalanche that March is about to bring that is stressing me out. So it feels really good to kind of be able to sit down and record an episode. This is going to be a solo episode where I am re-listening to my first 10-ish episodes of the podcast, which, looking back, those were in October of 2020. It feels crazy that I've been doing the podcast for 4.5 years, especially listening back to the episodes, which were like 4 minutes long, and I released 2 a week. So a very different structure than what it is today, but it's fun that it's still around, that it's survived. And what happens is people find this podcast, even today, new people are finding the podcast, and then they go back and they start from the beginning, which I think is crazy because it's like 400 episodes. So sometimes when people tell me that, I get a little worried because I don't remember what I said in those first episodes. And I worry that maybe the advice that I was giving 4 years ago doesn't really hold up today. So that is why I'm recording this episode. Like, does that information still hold true? So I went back, I re-listened to all the episodes, which didn't take that long because they were literally 4 minutes long. And I was, I will say, pleasantly surprised. There was definitely a level of cringe. I think anytime you go back and listen to yourself, it's cringy. But specifically when you're going back to listening to like the first time you ever did something, kind of like looking at your balloon decor, like you look at those first jobs and you're just like, I can't believe I charged money for that. But that's what I'm doing today. I'm going to go back, I'm going to listen to the episodes, and I'm going to talk about what I still do, what I no longer do, what I recommend, what I don't recommend, and of course, some little bits along the way about kind of just behind the scenes of the podcast and what it was like then, what it's like now. So we are going to take a quick break and head over to the UGlu Hotline, and then get into my first episodes and see what still holds up all these years later. Welcome to the UGlu Hotline, where we discuss great advice that sticks. Brought to you by Pro Tapes. If you have a question or some great advice to share, click the link in the show notes to call in and leave a voicemail.
Hi there, this is Jen from Central Illinois Balloon Decor. I'm about 2.5 hours south of Chicago. I wanted to call in with a little tip that my husband actually discovered since he helps me sometimes with installs on the weekends whenever he can. We recently just got a 2015 Tahoe before we were using a Honda CRV, and we have two littles. And so now with the Tahoe, we're able to fold down that third row. But I wanted to share one of the tips that we have figured out since we do use a lot of framework for our installations, whether it be a hoop or like one of the narrow arches. So what we do is we do not disassemble the entire thing. We just break it apart basically in 2 to 4 pieces, whatever will fit with that third row down. And then we actually leave the screws about halfway in. That way we don't have to bag them up separately or risk losing them. So whenever we go to throw it in the back of the car, we put the screw exactly where it's supposed to go and screw it about halfway in just so it's stable enough and tight enough to stay in there. That way you don't risk losing it and you save time when you go to break down or set up. Also, we've noticed that sometimes having it that way, you don't put it together a wrong way. Because if anybody has ever done framework with a lot of different pieces, you may know that some bars or pieces don't fit as well if they're not in the correct spot. So, hope this tip helps. Thanks. Bye.
Pro Tapes is a leading manufacturer of specialty tape products like Pro Gaff, Pro Artist Tape, and our favorite balloon tape, UGlu, which helps you create amazing balloon arrangements and decorations in less time. You can save 5% on UGlu when you buy directly from Havin A Party using code BRIGHT at checkout. All right, welcome back. So I have come prepared with notes. I actually did go back and re-listen because I thought I maybe knew what I was going to say in these episodes, and some of the advice actually kind of surprised me, and a lot of it pleasantly so, which I have a lot of kind of little insights to share. It is strange to reflect on my own advice like this. I don't think I've ever done anything like this. But kicking off, I just wanted to say not all of these are available on all platforms. And honestly, I don't know why. I would think that it was probably something to do with the settings of those early episodes because I didn't know what I was doing. Like certain episodes aren't available on Spotify and then others aren't available on Apple, but they are all available on the website. So thebrightballoon.com, you can find every single episode there unless I've like deleted it for some reason. And we'll talk about one of those episodes, like why I probably should delete it. But if you're curious, if you want to go back and re-listen to these, they are still available, just maybe not on the platform that you're used to listening on, but they're all on the website. I also think it was funny. The sound I thought actually was pretty good considering these early episodes were recorded on my phone, sitting in my closet. Like true story, I would sit in the closet because there were clothes kind of surrounding me to like dampen some of the echo. And then other times I would record in my car, which you can actually like hear cars passing by. But hey, I'm happy that I started. I didn't have anything yet. I didn't have a microphone. I didn't have editing software. I didn't know how to do any of this. So there are no edits. Like it's just a one and done. There's no going back and, fixing things, which I think is why I sound a little bit more careful. Like I never really feel like I get in the groove or turn into myself in these early episodes because I feel like I'm choosing my words so carefully. Now I kind of just say whatever I think. I'm less concerned about that, but I'm much more comfortable, right? I've done this 300, 400 times at this point. So episode 1 was in October of 2020. We were still very much in the pandemic. And it was about Instagram. So episode 1 is about your Instagram profile and 3 things that you should have. And I will say these 3 things are still my top 3 things that I think your Instagram profile should have. So those items that I talked about were including your actual name in Instagram. So a lot of people just have their business. I prefer if I know who I'm talking to. So I like when there's a name attached to it. The second one is my biggest pet peeve still to this day, and I see it every single day, and that is not having your location listed in your Instagram bio. So please, for the love of God, if you're listening to this episode, open your Instagram and see if it says where your business is located. Because if it doesn't, you've won the award for the thing that drives me the craziest in all of Instagram land. And that is when you're trying to hire someone and you can't even figure out where they're located. So make sure it says right in your profile where you're located. And as a tangent, I would say that goes the same with your website too. If people have to work really, really hard to figure out what areas you serve, they're probably just going to click out of your website. The third thing was a link to your website. Now, I found this really interesting because I don't remember being quite so calculated in the beginning, but I really was. The reason I started the podcast was to sell courses. And I actually published those courses first. And my first one was how to build a website. So back in the day, I don't ever think I saw the podcast as like the main thing. I had a how to build a website course, and I just kind of started the podcast as a way to market that course. So the third thing was a link to your website. And obviously that still very much remains true. But then I just kind of launched into a pitch of how to buy my course, which I probably wouldn't do now. But that actually brings to another point of something that I'm always a little bit hesitant of when people say they're starting with the early episodes. A lot of the courses and things that I've come up with over the years are no longer available because those actually didn't stand the test of time. Like I had a very to the point, quick and dirty website in a day building course. And the reason why I had to take that down was because Wix, which is the platform that I used then and I still use now for my website, it made so many updates over the last 4 years that the website course didn't work anymore. You know, it would show a video and like say, hey, click here. And people would go to click there and that button no longer existed. Or like, here's how you update a photo. And 4 years ago, it wasn't the same as it is now. So I eventually just got tired of having to refresh these courses and I took that down. So if you listen to the early episodes and you want to buy one of the things that I mentioned, chances are it's not available anymore, which does kind of stink. This just happened this week. Someone reached out and wanted to buy my color chart that I spent a long time promoting and selling. And that also was discontinued because so many brands have come up. Qualitex no longer exists. Like I couldn't have foreseen that 4 years ago. So these ideas of these templates and these downloads, they just get outdated really, really quickly. So if you click a link and it doesn't work, it's probably because that download is no longer available. But in general, episode 1, I was like, hey, look at me. I have my little intro ready. It's the same song. It's the same intro. It's 3 tips that hold up. I was pretty proud of that. So go me. Episode 1, I can still fully endorse. Episode 2, 3 free upgrades you can make today in your business. And again, these were like 5-minute episodes. And honestly, I like them. I think they're really, really action filled. Like it's like boom, 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 no fluff. And I really like those. This one, the 3 free things that you could do. I said a logo using Canva, 10 out of 10. I would still recommend that. A business email. So like don't use your AOL, your personal email from 100 years ago. Obviously 10 out of 10, I still recommend that. I will say since then I have upgraded. At the time I was using wisconsinballoondecor@gmail.com. And now I have upgraded to, support at wisconsinballoondecor.com and Sarah at wisconsinballoondecor.com. And that happened because my team grew and our needs grew. So I needed separate email addresses for different people doing different tasks. So while that tip is still true, I have kind of upgraded from the free email option. And then this one I thought was a great tip, update your email signature. So that's another free upgrade that you can make just by going into your email provider settings and set up an email signature. So every time you go to type an email, you're not like typing in your name and your email and your contact information. It should just be like pre-saved in there. So again, episode 2, yay, go me. That wasn't so outdated. Episode 3, get control of your client communication. Now this one kind of shocked me because I thought I knew what I was going to say and I didn't. The first thing I said was a website with a contact form. Again, yes, 100% true. But I think this was Sarah from the past trying to sell her website course. Smart. I'm not mad at that. But that course no longer exists. But the idea of kind of eliminating DMs and Facebook messages and getting everybody funneled to your website, again, 10 out of 10. I fully do this still almost 5 years later. The second tip was direct everyone from social media to your website, either with a link or an autoresponder. I still definitely do this. I don't have an autoresponder up on Instagram. I feel like I'm able to keep up with those DMs, but I do ultimately still send them to my contact form. Now, the thing that I was pretty surprised on here is that there was no mention of 17 hats. And I don't know if I was using 17 hats at this time. I think I was, but I think I thought the idea of a CRM was just too intimidating for these early episodes. I was definitely starting very simple and very basic, which I loved. I think that was actually a really good decision on my part. I love these really straightforward, really basic episodes. So much so that it's kind of sparked some ideas that I will talk about in a little bit here. But there was no mention of 17 hats, which I was surprised about. So now, obviously, I still have the contact form. I still funnel everybody from everywhere to that contact form on my website, but I will sing it from the rooftops forever. I love 17 hats. It is my CRM of choice. And that is essentially my contact form. That is my portal into my CRM. When people fill that out on my website, they get kind of onboarded into my whole welcome email series, and then we go to the invoice, and then we go to the confirmation, and then it's all built in on that back end. And I can see why I didn't want to mention that in episode 3 because it seems very overwhelming. But no mention of 17 hats, but 3 straightforward, items, and that was a contact form, a auto reply, and also having a website, which again is me selling that course that no longer exists. So the first 3 episodes I think are pretty solid. And, what I mentioned a little bit ago is that what it has kind of sparked in me is this passion and this reminder for the nitty gritty, for the basics. I feel like a lot of the episodes now of the podcast are obviously interviews. They are a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of how you think about your business, not as many nitty gritty, like here are actual things to do in your business today. So that's kind of what I do more on the bonus episodes. If you like that, if you like, me talking about my business and the things I actually do and the software that I'm using, that I'm kind of doing more on the bonus episodes. So those are $5 a month for episodes basically about my business and things I'm using. And if you'd like insight into that, you can find that using the link wherever you're listening. So it's either on Patreon or you can subscribe right inside Apple. But that's kind of where I get to talk about those really practical, really action-filled steps, episodes. And we just finished a whole series, actually. It was 31 ways in 31 days. And it was just all of January, 31 little things you can do to set yourself up for success in your business. So those episodes really remind me of these early podcast episodes where it's, a few minutes of things to do, no fluff. And yeah, it's kind of interesting how it's kind of come full circle. And now the regular podcast episodes are much longer, obviously, majority interview based, but those little tips, I still love that basic information. And if you love that too, you can find those over in the bonus episodes. So all in all, first 3 episodes, there's nothing that I disagree with, honestly, and I'm shocked. I'm so shocked. I thought that these would feel really outdated. I thought that there would be so much change, and it's made me personally feel kind of good about my business. Sometimes I have a little bit of imposter syndrome, especially doing the podcast. Like, who am I to tell anybody what to do? Because I'm a mess, right? But then I look back and it's like, no, I have been using the same systems, advocating for the same ways of doing business for like a good 4.5 years now, and it hasn't changed that much. A lot does change, right? Technology changes, style changes. A lot does change in my business, but I'm glad that some of these basics really haven't. I'm still using the same software. I'm still using the same website. I'm still using the same model of how I run my business, how I funnel everyone to a contact form. Like, And my life was so different back then. I was working full time. We were in a pandemic. My business wasn't nearly the size that it is now. So I can kind of confidently say that those very basics from back when I started still hold up, even though my business has doubled or tripled in size, even though I've gone full time, even though I have employees. Like it all holds up, and it doesn't need to get that much more complicated, which I think for me is where kind of my little boost of energy has come from recording this episode. Like, it doesn't have to get complicated. The basics can still be the foundation, even when your business grows. All right, let's take a quick break. And then I have more episodes and more insights to share. Are you ready to take your balloon business to the next level? Look no further than Havin A Party Wholesale, your ultimate destination for all things balloons. Havin A Party Wholesale is on the cutting edge of new products that will wow your clients, from top brands like Tuftex, Jamar, Anagram, Ellie's, Sempertex, Premium Conwin, and introducing Brookloon, a new balloon line created by the Havin A Party family. They've got the widest selection to fuel your creativity. Join the successful league of professional balloon artists who shop at havinaparty.com. Okay, welcome back. Let's keep going here. Episode 4, straightforward. It's so funny that this was an entire episode, but it's putting your business on the map, and it's about registering your business on Google My Business. And I remember at the time, this felt like something no one had heard of, and I kind of felt like I was spilling my secret. Now everyone, I think, has their business on Google My Business. If you don't, hot tip, you should, because it automatically kind of ranks you first. It helps you show up on a local map. So when people search balloons by me, that's where it's finding that information. Now, a lot of the Google stuff might be changing with AI, just because there's so many growing ways to search. Like, people are more and more going to OpenAI to search for things. It's not all Google all the time. So I do think there's going to be a lot of shift in this in the next few years. There really hasn't been, in my opinion, in the last 5 years. But I think this year could be a big year in terms of where people are searching. I know that I am constantly opening ChatGPT to ask things that I otherwise would have searched on Google, because it's just so much more interactive and you can talk to it like a person instead of having to search for something. Sometimes I need answers and I don't even know what the question is, and that's where I see myself going to ChatGPT. So yeah, more on that soon. But for now, I would say definitely get your business registered on Google My Business. Now, episode 5 was my first interview, and it was with Joette from Balloon Coach. So that was kind of the first interview that I ever did, which I remember being worried about because I didn't know how to record an interview. Recording with a microphone straight into like Audacity, like that's what I'm recording right now, that obviously wasn't going to work with an interview, and I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how the audio would work. And now, again, all these years later, the best option for me is still just Zoom. Like, there are other platforms that are definitely more for podcasters. They record your audio on separate tracks, but Zoom has come a long way. And the thing I like about Zoom is that it's automated. When someone signs up for an episode, it shoots them the Zoom link. Everyone knows how to use Zoom. You don't need to log in or do anything special. So the easiest path is still the best path, and we are still using that years and years later. But yeah, for a good long time, I was so afraid of interviews. And now the podcast has become primarily interviews. Like, it's almost always an interview. This year, I think I am setting it up. So actually, I'll share kind of my podcast outline for the year. Every other month is going to be a curated month by a brand, which is incredible that I have basically sold out those months. I'm so grateful to the brands that are coming on to support the show. And then the in-between months, I'm reserving for myself to do the interviews that I want to do. And one of those weeks will be a solo episode. So basically, once or twice a quarter, you're going to get a solo episode update from me, like this one. And then the rest are going to be interviews. So that's a lot. That's a lot of time interviewing. It's a lot of time talking to people, but I love it. And I've kind of run out of advice. I mean, obviously, I love sharing insights into my business and what's going on, but I am to the point where I'm just going to be a broken record and say the same things over and over and over. So that's why interviews are great, because you get new perspectives and new stories. And I'm so excited about the interviews that we have coming up. They're they're awesome. Honestly, they're awesome. I'm so excited to talk to these professionals, and I'm so excited that you guys are still willing to come on and share your stories. So kudos to Joette for being my first guinea pig and my first interview back in episode 5. Episode 6, this is one where I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't disagree with it, but episode 6 was styled shoots and using those as a way to network. Now, I don't disagree with anything I said in this episode. I just don't think that 10-year-old business Sarah is really in the market for styled shoots these days. I just have too many real life opportunities to get good photos that I no longer need, or I guess need is a bad word, but I no longer want to prioritize styled shoots. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean that they're not still a great opportunity. I bet in the photography world, styled shoots are old news. I don't think photographers are really wanting to work for free anymore. I think this was a little bit more mainstream 5 years ago when people were really into Instagram and really into getting content and really into collaboration. I don't see that so much as a trend anymore, but maybe it's just because I'm older and I'm not wanting to work for free either. And I'm not willing to like go out of my way to get the dream shot. I just don't really care that much anymore because I have enough real life photos to use. So yeah, I don't disagree with what I said in the styled shoot episode. I just am not prioritizing styled shoots, and I don't think I've done one in 2 or 3 years. So yeah, it's a good episode if you don't have any photos and you don't have any connections and you need, to create balloons. But in general, that's not something that I am going to make time for anytime in the future. Episode 8, 3 social media upgrades you can make today. I was big on the power of 3. I still am. I still like an episode where it's like 3 things you can do, 8 things you can do, 4 things you can do. I still a sucker for like a listicle, and I definitely liked 3s at the beginning. So episode 8, 3 social media upgrades you can make today. The first was watermarks. Okay, this one I think has outlived it. This is old news. So using a watermark across your photo. Basically what I was saying is that you can upgrade your watermark so that it's not like an ugly picture. Back in the day, people would put watermarks on their photos before they posted to Instagram, but they would just use like their logo that wasn't a PNG file. So they would have like a big white rectangle behind their logo and it would obstruct part of the photo. Or other people would put their watermark like horizontal completely through the entire picture to try to keep people from stealing their photo. I think now we're kind of all more aware that either our photos are going to get stolen. Like, pictures get stolen and then you see them on Amazon. Like, it's crazy how photos are stolen these days. But it's almost like we've given up a little and we've just stopped with the watermarking. I know I have. I no longer watermark my photos because I don't really care. Like, if someone takes my photo, boo on you. But like, I'm not going to chase you down. I don't care. I don't have time. But I think, yeah, it's just kind of funny. I like had a whole episode about how to watermark your photos. And now it's like, who cares? No one watermarks anymore. It's an extra step that I think that you can eliminate if you choose. Some people still do. Some people on Instagram, they watermark every single photo. I get it. I personally just am not going to take the time to do that. The other thing I mentioned here was post descriptions. All the way back then, 4.5 years ago, I was still struggling with Instagram descriptions, just like I am now. I still hate writing captions, but it was a good tip. Instead of using it to talk about what's in the picture, use that caption to talk about your service. So instead of saying, look at this great balloon arch, use it to leave a little nugget, like all of our balloon arches include setup, or all of our arches can be set up in less than 10 minutes. Use it to promote your service rather than just writing another caption about like, oh, look at how great these balloons are. And I honestly struggle with that. I still don't have a solution. I still hate writing captions. I still kind of hate social media. So not much has changed, I guess, in the last few years for me. And then the last tip of this episode was using later.com to schedule your posts. No, I still use this. I still love later.com. It is still my favorite scheduling app. I know that people will say it is not the best way to do social media. It definitely drives down engagement. Instagram doesn't like it. They will not show it to people. And I am still going to say I don't care. I think something is better than nothing. And if I don't schedule out my social media, it means I'm not going to post. So I am in a habit now of scheduling an entire month on like the first week of the month. So I will go in, I will have all my photos queued up in later.com. I drag and drop to the scheduling day, and that's it. And then I'll rattle out a caption, and I still hate that part, but then at least my social media is done for the month, and then everything schedules out from there. Since then, actually, there are a lot more options. Back in 2020, Later was one of the only ones I knew. Now you can schedule social media right in Canva. You can schedule it right inside Instagram, which I think is the best way to do it. But again, I am very visual. I like that Later shows you your grid. It shows you when your posts are going to schedule. You can drag and drop. You can save hashtags. Again, I think it is a sacrifice that's worth it for me. If you are like a social media influencer, this isn't going to be what you do because engagement is everything. For me, I just kind of look at Instagram like a living portfolio. People can see what I'm up to. It feeds over to my website with updated photos. So I really just want it to be, a reflection of my current work. I don't need to grow that platform much. In fact, I've kind of put Instagram on hold this year for my Wisconsin Balloon Decor account. I don't need many more followers over there. I have a lot of repeat customers. I'm really focusing on them. They're not finding me on Instagram. They're texting me directly or emailing me directly because I've worked with them. So I'm not getting lazy. I'm actually just really prioritizing my current top customers. And those aren't new customers. They're already existing. So that is kind of my marketing attitude towards Instagram this year. All right, let's take another break. I'm going to talk about a few more episodes, and then we'll wrap this one up, and I will share a couple more insights about what is to come this year on the podcast. Balloon pros, if you've been putting off your website because you're too busy inflating, installing, or making magic for your clients, you're not alone. I know so many of you have been stuck between DIYing your site, struggling with templates that don't quite fit, or feeling like a fully custom website is out of reach. That's where Courtney Lynette Creative Co. comes in. Courtney is a web designer who has worked with tons of balloon stylists, and she gets the unique needs of your business. She's created Website in a Day, a streamlined process that gives you a high-end, custom quality website and branding without the stress or high cost. In just one day, you'll walk away with a beautiful, strategic website designed to help you book more clients, showcase your work, and stand out in a crowded market. Plus, branding is included, so your entire online presence looks polished and professional from top to bottom. And because you're a Bright Balloon listener, you can get $100 off your Website in a Day package. Just mention the podcast when you book. Don't wait another season to get your website working for you. Head to CourtneyLynette.com/bright-balloon to learn more, or click the link in the show notes wherever you're listening. All right, welcome back. A few more episodes. I'm not going to go episode by episode at this point, but basically like the next 5 or so episodes that I pulled out. One was total marketing clarity, and that was, again, an entire episode about adding a how did you hear about us field to your website. There was an automation series. So within the first 10 episodes, I launched into my first series about automation. So that was really something that was there from the beginning, something that is still there now. Like, I love automation. And that is where I talk about 17 hats for the first time. That's where I talk about later.com. I do like a full episode about that. That is the first mention of Profit First. So the first book that I kind of introduced, which then eventually led to the book club, which led to the bonus episodes, which it's fun just kind of reverse engineering and seeing where everything started. And all of that still holds up, which is awesome. I still love 17 hats, obviously. I still use Later. I just talked about that. Profit First is still my cash flow system. I've modified it a little bit. But it made me kind of give a sigh of relief that when people find the episodes now or the podcast now and they want to go back and start from the beginning, I can kind of say, yeah, you should do that. Those are some good episodes. So much so, I kind of mentioned that this kind of sparked like this idea of these basics. Like, I love these nitty-gritty basics, and I'm not saying this that I'm going to do this, but I've kind of pulled away from courses. I've kind of, stopped promoting the courses that I have. I haven't really created new courses in a while. But if I do in the future, I think it's going to be something like this. I actually had a really involved, really in-depth course early on. I called the Laser Focused Solopreneur, and it was all about working by yourself and how to automate and streamline everything in your business. And I think I kind of retired that one a little too early, again, because of that imposter syndrome. I felt like, well, what do I know about this? Who am I to be teaching people about this? And I just almost chickened out. I mean, many of you bought it, and I don't know, it scared me. So I took it down, and I might re-record something like that because I do think a lot of those principles still hold up. Like even LASER, my little acronym I came up with was limit, automate, standardize or streamline, eliminate, and refine. It's this little process that I still go through in my head all the time. And looking back at these early episodes, a lot of those principles have stood the test of time. So I feel like I'm able to eliminate some of that imposter syndrome that I maybe had early on. And not that my way is right, but my way is valid. And I just got home from Fulcrum a few weeks ago, which was a small convention in St. Louis. I really loved it. Actually, I have a whole video about it over on YouTube. I did a whole vlog behind the scenes, and those were panel discussions. And the thing I realized at Fulcrum is that not everybody, but a lot of people on those panels believe that their way is right. And that's because it is for them, right? So like there are so many different ways to do things. And for a lot of the people up there, they are doing it the way that works best for them. And because I do things completely different, it doesn't make it wrong or better. It's just different. It's another option. So I feel like the way that I'm kind of stifling some of that early on imposter syndrome that I maybe had is that I'm not about being right. It's about presenting a way that works for me that might also work for other people listening. So I don't know, more to come. Maybe I'm going to do a course this year about streamlining, about automating, about basically what works for me and kind of introduce my actual business model and what I do. Again, it might be totally different from some big business or, a different model, but it works for me. And that's what I think that this podcast always has been. So it's really cool to look back and hear those early episodes. Real quick before we wrap up, I did want to mention YouTube. That was one of my big goals this year. And it is off to a really, really good start. I am thoroughly enjoying it. I kind of dragged my feet a little bit. I did my first video at Summit in November, and I edited it last week. Like the editing was definitely the big stumbling block for me. Just like the early years of the podcast, I didn't know how to edit, so I recorded on my phone. So because I didn't know how to do all the fancy stuff with my camera or with microphones, I kind of started simple, and I'm figuring it out as I go. But the learning curve for the video editing is steep but quick. Like I'm learning really quickly. So I already have a few videos up on YouTube if you want to check them out. There is a full behind the scenes video of Summit. There's a full behind the scenes video of Fulcrum. There's an interview that we did at Fulcrum, which is really fun, with my friend Darren. We're twisting balloons and it's goofy and it's a live interview. I have another one coming out very soon, which is from Summit, and it's actually great. It's really long. It's like 40 minutes, but it is what I would call like edutainment, right? It's education, but it's entertaining. And it's just a conversation with 4 different groups of people looking at balloon decor and saying which ones they would choose to do, which ones they would eliminate, why, what works better for them. And you get, like, just editing it, I was able to go back and get these little nuggets of information just by listening to people kind of talk through their ideas and their opinions. So that episode will be coming out either this Sunday or next Sunday. I'm cranking them out and I'm scheduling them for Sundays. So if you don't follow The Bright Balloon over on YouTube, there is actually stuff over there now for you. So you can check that out. All right, so this was a little walk down memory lane. I am happy that those episodes were not as cringy as I thought they were going to be, or as outdated as I thought they were going to be. And a lot of that information still holds up. So if you want to start from the beginning, you certainly can. You do not have to. And thank you for some of you who have been listening from the very beginning. I still feel like the podcast is like 2 years old. I can't believe it's 4.5. That blows my mind. So thanks so much for listening. I'm going to wrap this one up, and we'll be back next week with another interview. See you then. Thanks for listening. As usual, I tried to keep it bright and light. Our presenting sponsor is 17 Hats, the CRM I use to cut the chaos and manage my entire balloon business. From the lead capture form on my website to workflows and email templates, Invoicing and grab-and-go garland automated bookings, it's all powered by 17 Hats, the best customer relationship management system for balloon businesses. There's even a 50% off coupon code waiting for you in the show notes wherever you're listening. I'll see you next week in another episode.